Good day, everybody. My name is Andy Hagler, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mental Health Association in Forsyth County. And it really is a pleasure to be here, and it's really a pleasure to share some thoughts about wellness, about resiliency, about developing some coping strategies during these uncertain times during the pandemic. I think for a lot of us, when the pandemic occurred, or when it was officially announced as a pandemic around mid-March, and then we had the shelter in place and businesses closed. Sadly, there were layoffs, there were terminations, and then a lot of people, including myself, then ended up having to work from home. It's like, all right, one day we were at our offices, and the next day we were working at home. I think a lot of us thought, well, this isn't going to last forever. Probably for a couple of months, maybe 3 months at the very most, and then things will kind of get back to normal. Well, now here it is, past 6 months in the pandemic, and yes, we're in phase 2.5 now. Some things are opening up. Some restrictions I know have been eased, like at our hospitals, and maybe some of the restrictions at Arbor Acres may have been eased up a little bit. But again, it's still not life as we know it because, for example, church services, are still, most of those are still online. So that was probably a big learning curve for a lot of us. And like for example, the church services, they're fine, they're good, but it's not the same as being there in the church and with other people and interacting and being with other people. So there have been just a lot of changes that have happened and occurred, and then on top of everything else, then terms such as social distancing. So we have to stay 6 feet away, wear a mask, sanitize everything. So there have been a lot of behavioral changes. And then, of course, I know for a lot of you at Arbor Acres, I have a 95-year-old parent, just for your information, who's in a long-term care facility. My mom's at Trinity Glen here in Winston-Salem. And so they went on lockdown mid-March and still on lockdown. She's in long-term care. So again, I know there's also been that isolation and not being able to be physically with family and loved ones and with those that support. And that does take an effect on our mental health. So we've all been through a lot of changes, and as human beings, we really don't like to change. And I know I get calls. We run support groups, and we're doing our support groups online. And I still get calls from individuals who are still holding out and waiting when we're going to have the in-person support groups. Or, they'll call and go, Andy, when are things going to go back to normal? And unfortunately, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. I can't see in the future. And in fact, none of us can really see into the future. So I think sometimes that can make things frustrating and very challenging for all of us. So I'm going to talk and share a little bit about practicing some self-care, practicing some resiliency, and coping with all of these changes. And when I talk a little bit about self-care, and I think kind of in the introduction that I gave, it's not about just taking a bubble bath. I mean, okay, if you like taking a bubble bath, that is a way of practicing self-care, but it's more than that. It's about taking care of yourself, eating proper nutrition, eating as healthy as you possibly can, getting enough sleep, exercising, drinking water, avoiding alcohol, taking your medications, and doing these things intentionally to help take better care of yourself. Because a lot of these tips a lot of these strategies and a lot of these things I'm going to talk about, you're going to go, well, this is just common sense. Well, taking care of yourself is common sense. It's just that the things that we need to do to take better care of ourselves and to cope with the changes with the pandemic and to build that self resiliency, it's all intentional. We have to do some things to change, and it's all intentional. So even though, again, you're going, well, this is all common sense, I know all this stuff. Well, we may know a lot of things, but how many of us, including myself, actually practice all of these things that I'm going to talk about? So let me just also make it very clear that when I talk to you about making changes and practicing self-care, I'm also talking to myself. I'm human. And again, this is all very intentional. So let's start off with just a couple of some suggestions. And of course, one of the things about taking care of yourself, let's start with addressing your physical health. Your physical health. And again, one of the things that you can do as best as you can is to try to start eating healthier foods. And let me tell you, since the pandemic has happened, I love getting a cheeseburger and fries. And there are some places near where I work, and one of those is called Goody's Grill. And I love their hamburgers. I love their cheeseburgers. I love their chicken strips. But let me tell you, I've had to learn to put a hold on that or not order that as much. So really trying to eat more salads, trying to eat more fruits and vegetables, and also foods like especially your fruits or whatever that have a lot of water. So again, really kind of watching what you're eating and trying to eat foods that are healthier. And let me tell you, during the pandemic, I kind of got into the fast food and the fried food very easily, and I'm putting a stop to that or really working on that. So again, fruits, vegetables, salads, your meats, and foods that are proportioned. The other thing is I want to talk about when it comes to your physical health is sleep. And I know for some of you that might really be a challenge, but again, trying to get as much restful sleep as you can. And kind of the way I look at it is that, okay, maybe at night you're not getting your 7 or 8 hours, but maybe during the day you're resting or maybe having a cat nap, or maybe having a mid-afternoon nap. And actually, we're kind of hardwired to really have that afternoon nap. But again, try somewhere as best as you can to get as much quality sleep that you can. And so maybe think about those things that might be affecting your quality sleep. So for example, I'm videoing this from my iPhone or from my smartphone. And one of the things that we're told not to do is to read our email and to look at things maybe on Facebook or YouTube or whatever from our smartphones, because the light that is emitting from the smartphone is equivalent to like the light from the sun or whatever that keeps us awake. So maybe one of the things, if you do have a smartphone or a tablet or even a computer, is maybe for an hour or so before you go to bed, or maybe 2 hours before you go to bed, put the phone down, turn off the computer, just try to de-wire as best as you can. That might be one thing. The other thing it might be that maybe sometimes some of us like to have that glass of wine, or maybe that beer, or maybe that cocktail before we go to bed. And again, sometimes the rationale is, well, it helps me go to sleep, it helps me to relax, and that's true. But then what can also happen is that several hours into your sleep, so to speak, the effects of the alcohol start wearing off, and then you wake up and then you can't go back to sleep. So again, and I'm not saying, maybe that you're doing these things, but again, think about maybe some things that you're doing before you go to bed that might be preventing you from getting a restful sleep. And maybe take that hour or two or hour and a half or whatever it might take just to start getting prepared for rest and for sleep. It might be turning off the TV. It might be playing some soothing music. It might be practicing something called gratitude. So in other words, before you go to bed at night, simply think about, what are some things that I'm grateful for? What are some things that I, Andy Hagler, or you out there at Arbor Acres, that you're grateful for, and practice gratitude? Is it for good health? Is it grateful for having a roof over your head and meals? Is it for gratitude for having health care? Is it gratitude for, having your basic needs met? Is it gratitude for maybe a grandchild has graduated from college or has gotten married or had a baby and now you're a great grandparent? What are some things that you're grateful for? So maybe every night before you go to bed, think about, write it down, say it out loud. What are some things that you're grateful for? And again, that can kind of help us prepare for sleep and sometimes prepare for a grateful sleep. Another thing is to just do some deep breathing. In other words, very simple deep breathing. Just do some inhale, hold it, and then exhale. Inhale, hold it for as long as you can, not very long, and then exhale. And again, just do some very simple deep breathing. Again, that can help with our pulse rate, that can help with our heart rate. That can also help reduce a lot of feelings of anxiety. And again, sometimes can kind of put you in that mode to start relaxing and getting some sleep. And of course, we always want to avoid risky behaviors. And again, that's, alcohol intake. What I always say is everything in moderation. So again, alcohol intake and other behaviors that might be risky to your health, because the benefit of sleep is that sleep helps to, number one, it strengthens our immune system. Sleep strengthens our immune system. And it also just kind of helps us to de-stress. If you remember the old saying, let me sleep on it, believe it or not, there is actually scientific proof that, quote unquote, sleeping on it can help reduce anxiety. Getting sleep can help with your thought patterns and your thinking process. And especially if maybe you've got some important decisions to make, getting that sleep can also be an aid in helping you to be able to make those decisions. So again, the phrase, let me sleep on it, that's actually something very valid and again can help you, especially with life's situations and maybe some things that you're dealing with. And of course, always, if you can, and now that we're approaching fall and the weather is transitioning, is, and again, within the limits at Arbor Acres, but try to spend some time outdoors. Try to get some fresh air. Try to enjoy nature. Listen to the birds. Listen to nature. Sometimes be quiet, be still, and just be outside. Get that fresh air, get some sunshine. And enjoy and take advantage of the world around you, and even during this pandemic, of the beauty that is around. And again, some things that can help us with our physical health. So just getting outside. Now I want to share a little bit about our mental health, and actually some of the things that I talked about, our physical health, can also help with our mental health. So, as best as you can, try to maintain some type of routine, more than just saying, well, I got out of bed. But try to have some kind of a routine. And one of the things that can also greatly help you with your mental health is to stay connected with other people. Stay connected with other people. And that can be residents there, friends there at Arbor Acres. That can be with family. That can be with staff. Stay connected with people, and especially stay connected with people who are supportive of you. I cannot concentrate or cannot focus on that too much. Stay connected. Isolating is probably one of the things that can really hamper our mental health, and ultimately can also affect, in a negative way, our physical health. Stay connected. And again, with family members, it could be through Zoom, it can be through Facebook, it can be through Skype. And even if you're not the most technologically savvy person, there's nothing wrong with using the telephone. Stay connected, and especially stay connected with people that are supportive of you. The other thing to really help us is to focus on those things that you can control. There's a lot out there that we can't control. And in fact, there's a prayer, and it was an opening prayer that's used in AA, which I think might be attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, but it goes with, to grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to have the difference. So again, focus on those things that you have control, and maybe use that prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And there are just a lot of things out there that we can't change. And sometimes the best thing to do is roll with the punches. But what are those things that you can control? What are those things that you can change? And what are those things that you can make a difference? And sometimes those things that you can't control, sometimes the best thing to do is just accept it and try to move on. The other thing is, again, use technology, again, to stay connected. So again, maybe if you haven't been a Facebook user, or maybe you haven't used Zoom or Skype or whatever, maybe try to learn one of those. Maybe something that's very simple. Again, it gets your mind rolling, it gets your mind active, and sometimes maybe try to learn maybe a new skills. Because believe it or not, old dogs can learn new tricks. Old dogs, and I'm 63 or almost 63, people can learn new things. So again, maybe set a goal to try to learn something new. And keep your thoughts and your focus as much as you can on the present. Again, there's also kind of that thing. Sometimes there's a hymn, and sometimes people, and often attributed to Al-Anon, that's called "One Day at a Time." And in fact, now that I'm 63 and I've told you my age, there's a TV show that was called "One Day at a Time." But I know in Al-Anon, they use that phrase a lot, one day at a time. So again, as best as you can, try to keep things or stay focused one day at a time. You can't worry about what's happened. Sometimes the old phrase, that's water over the dam. And you can't always focus on things in the future, and because a lot of times that might just create a lot of anxiety. So try to stay focused on the present and keep things as best as you can, one day at a time. And then finally, I did talk a little bit about gratefulness. Again, just a great thing to practice. Great thing to practice before you go to bed. But if it's better for you in the morning, it's a great way to start your morning. Or maybe when you're having dinner, or maybe with lunch or whatever. But again, focus on those things that you're grateful for. Practice gratitude. And because that will help rechannel your thoughts into more positive ways. Finally, one thing that a lot of times I want to also like to talk about is the value of journaling and the value of writing down your feelings and your thoughts and just keeping a notebook. Maybe growing up, when you were in school or small or whatever, you kept a diary. And really, in a lot of ways, journaling is no different or very similar just to keeping a diary. But again, writing down your thoughts, writing down your feelings. Was today a good day or was today not a good day? Were you frustrated about something? Maybe write down what caused you to be frustrated. Again, again, sometimes writing it down, again, can help you. And of course, journaling can be with pen and paper and pencil and a notebook, or it can be on your computer and typing it down. And again, your thoughts and feelings that you have, but a lot of times getting those thoughts and feelings out can also help you, and it can also be a very good stress reliever. So sometimes just journal, write it down, keeping a diary, and again, getting out your thoughts and feelings and kind of helping you to better understand with maybe some of the things that are going on. Another important thing is to, when was the last time maybe you've read a book? Or maybe just the last time that you've read a magazine? Or maybe when was the last time that you maybe downloaded a book or whatever, if that's something that you like to do? Think about maybe spending 30 minutes a day reading. Read a book, read a magazine. I'm sure that there's a library, a place there where you can check out books. Maybe get a book or a magazine of something that you're not familiar with. And that will also help you learn something new, but again, will help expand your mind. So again, think about reading. Or maybe if reading is not your thing, then what about listening to music? And that can be listening to music that you enjoy, or it might be, I really don't know that much about classical music, or maybe, the Baroque era, or, I really don't know a whole lot about jazz music. So I'm going to listen to some jazz and learn about jazz. So again, think about music and again, ways to kind of help you better cope. The other thing that I also want to talk about is it's very important to keep up with the media. It's very important to keep up with the news. It's very important to keep up with the current events going on. But there's also a time and place where you need to turn off the TV and not listen to whatever 24-hour cable news that you like to listen to, and all the chatter and all the talk, and especially now we're in an election year and lots of different views about a lot of different things. So again, keep up with what's going on in the world. That's very important. But then turn the TV off or change it to different programs. Maybe watch comedies. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe a show that you've always wanted to see, but haven't, or movie or show or something you've always wanted to see, but you really haven't. So again, limit your TV watching to the 24-hour news, because a lot of times that can sometimes be very depressing. The other thing is, because I know that going to church now, or your house of worship, whatever that might be, now is probably mostly online. Lean on your faith, again, whatever way, shape, or form that is, or your personal belief. Now during this pandemic, it's very, very important to, again, think about your faith. Think about your personal beliefs. Maybe think about your moral compass, again, for support. Again, just something else to just think about. Another way is sometimes, instead of focusing on yourself, in other words, turning that circle inward and thinking inward, sometimes it's good to think outward and to focus maybe with what's going on in the outside world or in our community. So this might be very much an opportune time to maybe host or maybe work with the staff at Arbor Acres or whatever, maybe in helping to support maybe some of the local nonprofits here in Winston-Salem, such as the food bank. I know that since the pandemic began, a lot of people have been laid off from jobs. Some people have been terminated from their jobs. And I know the demand for food, basic necessity, is at an all-time high. Or maybe it might be one of the art centers. Or again, think about an organization or a cause that might be near and dear to you. And it doesn't have to mean so much giving money, but ways that maybe you can lend support to that organization. So again, instead of taking that circle and thinking inward, maybe sometimes a good coping mechanism is to take it and look outward and what's going on out there, and what, in whatever small way that I can do to make a difference out there. And then finally, one of the things is, and this is kind of like gratitude or practicing gratitude, but sometimes show appreciation for the work that other people do. Since the pandemic, we have what we call our essential workers. And I'm sure at Arbor Acres, you have your essential workers. And so maybe think about, when was the last time that I said thank you? Thank you to the groundskeepers who keep the grounds and the property immaculate and well groomed, or maybe to the people who work in food service, or the custodial staff, or all the staff there, the healthcare staff. These people are frontline. They're essential workers. They've been there. They probably haven't missed a beat since the pandemic began. But maybe, when was the last time that I said thank you? And thank you for what you do. As well as thanking in the greater community here, our law enforcement, our police, the sheriff, our EMS. Again, they're putting their life on the line. They always put their life on the line, but now with the pandemic, their life is greater on the line. And, when was the last time that, I said thank you? Or to fire or firemen, or to any of our first responders. And again, it can just be, some of the folks who work there day in, day out at Arbor Acres, and they do the work and they get the work done. And when was the last time I ever said thank you? And sometimes just that practicing gratitude and just saying thanks, again, that can be very helpful. And it also makes, of course, the other person feel good and that they feel worthy and respected. And people are kind of noticing what they're doing. And then finally, one of the things that I want to talk about as far as just helping with coping, it's okay to not feel okay, or it's okay not to be okay. It's okay that we all have what I call down days, or days that we're just not our best. We're human. These are emotions. Or it's okay that, I'm just a little bit more sharper tongued, or maybe just, a little bit more angrier than I used to be. It's okay. The best thing that you can do is acknowledge that. And again, reach out and talk to somebody who's very supportive of you. And again, that could be a friend, that can be a staff person at Arbor Acres, that can be one of the chaplains or one of the pastors, or maybe your pastor. So again, reach out for that counseling, and again to let them know that for whatever reason I just quite haven't been my best. But to also realize, because we've been through a lot of changes, that it's okay that we may have days that we're just not okay. And again, we're human. That's just part of being a human being. And the best thing you can do is just acknowledge it. But then also stay connected with someone, and let them know that. And again, people that are of support for you. These are just several, and again, very simple techniques that I think all of us, and again, including myself, can do to really help us get through these trying times, to get through these uncharted waters of living during the pandemic. So as you're thinking about, okay, what is something that I can do? Maybe what is something that I haven't done? Maybe it's just as simple as, I need to go outside and get some more fresh air. Maybe just take a little walk. Maybe I really need to kind of watch my diet. Maybe I've been eating too many sweets, and maybe I need to eat more fruits and vegetables, or maybe eat some more fruits. Maybe I need to drink more water. Our bodies are composed primarily of water, not sweet tea, not Coke, not Diet Coke, not coffee. Our bodies are composed a lot of water, so we need a lot of water to help us replenish what we lose. Or is it maybe thinking about, I might think about gratitude. Or, maybe I've been watching too much cable news shows, and I'm really getting really stressed out with a lot of the talk about the election and then with COVID-19 and everything going on. And, maybe I just need to turn it off and then maybe find a book and read a book for about 30 minutes. Or maybe it's where I need to call somebody at Arbor Acres and talk to them because I just haven't been feeling my best. Or maybe calling my pastor and where I just have not been feeling my best. Or maybe I'm worried about a situation with a family member or with someone that I love dearly. Or it might be that, maybe we could organize a community event, maybe for a charity or a nonprofit out there in the community. So again, think maybe about one or two things that I've talked about that, okay, let me try these one or two things and see if this helps. If that helps, that's great. Then maybe try one or two more things. If that didn't help, that's okay. I gave many options. I like to write. I like to type on the computer. So maybe I'll just start keeping a journal and journal my thoughts and feelings. So again, it can be a lot of different things. If you or someone that you know or love, or somebody in your family, if they're really having trouble coping, if their fuse is a lot shorter and it's been persisting, if they're having difficulty maybe just concentrating or focusing, or they're just not that person that they were, and it's been lasting for quite a while, then again, maybe reach out to one of the staff at Arbor Acres for some help or advice. And of course, you're surely welcome to contact me at the Mental Health Association. Our phone number is 336-768-3880. Again, it's 336-768-3880. And perhaps we can be of help to talk, to listen, and maybe try to help you, or maybe someone that you loved who might be going through a troubled time. I hope that this talk and me sharing has been helpful. I hope that at least maybe there's one thing that you might want to try, and maybe one thing that you've learned. The key is really trying to work to stay active. And again, all of these that I've talked about, it's common sense, it's real easy. It wasn't rocket science, but it's intentional. And I think once you might try one or two things to help you maybe better cope, or some coping skills, you might find it's not that difficult, and you might actually kind of like it, and might actually want to do maybe some more ways to kind of help cope. Again, thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to call me at any time that I can be of help to you or anybody at Arbor Acres. And again, please take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and stay well. Thank you.